All right, welcome to Market Momentum, AI, and Analysis. We are going to jump right into the data and see where the smart money is really headed right now.
So here's what's on deck. We're going to cut through all the noise and give you a really clear look at the big trends. First up, precious metals. Then we'll hit the US markets, take a look at the wild world of crypto, and then, we'll bring it all home with a clear strategy summary.
All right, first up, precious metals. With prices jumping all over the place day to day, the real question is that core uptrend still holding strong? Let's take a look. It's so easy to get distracted by the daily ups and downs, right? So what we're going to do is just ignore that noise for a second. Let's zoom out and see what the longer-term charts are actually telling us about gold and silver.
Okay, and this right here is exactly why we look at different time frames. It's so important. If you look at gold, that 8-hour super trend indicator is still green. That's a big thumbs up for upward momentum. Now for silver, check out the 12-hour chart. The price is just cruising along inside a really nice positive upward channel. So what's the bottom line? Yeah, the daily charts might look like a total mess, but when you step back, these longer-term signs tell us the main uptrends are absolutely still in play.
So for gold, it really is simple. You've got to ignore the daily chatter. That main positive trend, it's not broken. And the data is pretty clear. The best move right now seems to be just to hold what you've got. And you know what? It's pretty much the same story for silver. It's handling all this volatility like a champ, and we're just not seeing any of those big technical red flags that would scream reversal. So yeah, just like with gold, all signs point to holding firm. This is so important for precious metals. It's all about perspective. You have to focus on the real underlying signal, not the day-to-day drama.
Okay, let's switch gears. We're moving on to the US markets, and you'll see this is a whole different kind of opportunity shaping up.
After what felt like weeks of just uncertainty, it looks like things are finally shifting. We're seeing key indicators for the big US indices start to turn positive. This is one of those moments where you really need to be paying attention. And here's the proof in the pudding. The S&P 500, which gives us that broad market view, hasn't just recovered. It's on a clear path upwards. But what's really telling is the Nasdaq. The tech-heavy index just triggered a strong daily buy signal, and that is a very bullish sign for the tech sector. So you might be asking, okay, great, but how do I act on this? Well, for a lot of people, index investing is a really powerful way to go. Think about it. You get instant exposure to all the top companies. Your investment is automatically diversified, and maybe most importantly, you take away the massive risk of trying to pick the one winning stock. And this chart just lays it all out visually. You can see that whole journey right here. It goes from the previous low, through that recovery phase, and right into the positive trend we're seeing now in the Nasdaq. I mean, the momentum shift is undeniable. It's pointed straight up. So let's boil it all down. If you're sitting on new capital and you're wondering where to put it to work, the analysis is pointing with a big, bright, flashing arrow directly at the US stock market indexes. That seems to be the #1 opportunity at this moment.
All right, deep breath. Now let's pivot to probably the most dynamic and, let's be honest, the most volatile asset class out there, crypto.
Look, after a pretty significant, and for a lot of people, a pretty painful downturn, there's really only one question on every crypto investor's mind. Is the worst finally over? Have we hit the bottom?
What's interesting is that the market seems to be following a classic playbook here. First, we had that sharp dive, right? Prices fell right down to a key support level that a lot of analysts were watching. Then, we entered this bottoming process, where the panic selling finally started to dry up. And now, we're just entering phase 3, where we're starting to see those first little glimmers of a potential reversal. And this isn't just wishful thinking. There's some real evidence pointing to a turnaround. For one, the total market cap is crawling its way back towards a really key trend line. Number 2, Ethereum, which often leads the way, is starting to flash some early buy signals. And maybe the biggest thing is that the crushing, relentless downward pressure we saw for weeks, it just seems to have stopped.
So, where does that leave us? Well, the vibe is definitely one of cautious optimism. The analysis is telling us the massive slide is probably over. But, and this is a big but, a huge rip-roaring rally might still be a ways off. So the name of the game here is patience. The strategy is to hold what you've got and just watch like a hawk for that new uptrend to really confirm itself.
Okay, let's pull all these threads together. We're going to wrap everything up into one single clear strategy. And here it is, your cheat sheet. It couldn't be simpler. For gold and silver, the outlook is positive, so the strategy is to hold. For U.S. stocks, it's a strong positive, making this the place to deploy new cash, so buy the indexes. And for crypto, it's cautiously positive, so the smart move is to hold and watch. Pretty straightforward, right?
So now you've seen the data, you've seen the trends. The big question really comes back to you. Where are you going to focus your attention? We've given you the framework here, but how you use these insights, well, that's your next move.
Hey, thanks so much for joining us for this market breakdown. We really appreciate you spending your time with us. And of course, if you got some value out of this, a subscription or a like would be amazing.